Now, I want to point out, because this word boldness pops up several times in this chapter, they're standing before judges. Their freedom is on the line. They could literally be locked up and in prison, and they will be later in the chapters. We'll see that they'll actually pay the price for their faith. But they're not backing down at all. They're saying, look, we're preaching Jesus, the one you crucified. We're preaching that He's the only way. There's no other salvation in any other. No, not all roads lead to heaven. That's what he's saying. There's only one road, and it's the Lord Jesus Christ. But I want you to notice their boldness. They're not bold trying to prove everybody wrong. They're not bold like, you know what, we're right, you're wrong. Let me show you how you're wrong. Let me show you how we're right. That's arrogance. There's a big difference between being bold and being arrogant. When Paul is standing in front of the king, he's so passionate about reaching even the king. Can you imagine maybe today in this modern day spirit that we find creeping into the independent fundamental churches, and that is, you know, bless God, that judge, I'm going to stand before me, some reprobate, and I'm just going to put him in his place. No, Paul, when he stood before his accuser, says, I wish you knew what I knew. I wish you could understand the gospel. Even to the point, let's read it, Acts chapter 26. Look what he says in verse 25. They've called him crazy. You're a fool. And he says, Paul answers back, but he said, I'm not mad. I'm not a fool. I'm not mad, most noble Festus. But speak forth the words of truth and soberness. For the king knoweth of these things, before whom I speak freely. For I am persuaded that none of these things are hidden from him. For this thing was not done in a corner. King Agrippa, believest thou the prophets? I know that thou believest. Then Agrippa said unto Paul, almost thou persuadest me to be a Christian. You know, here's his accuser. He's standing before the law. And he's like, do you believe the Bible, King? And he looked at Paul and he's like, you know, you almost convinced me. I wonder if that's the boldness we're thinking of when we see boldness. Or is it bold? How dare you arrest me? Who do you think? God's going to judge you. No, it's boldness to see them saved. It's not, yeah, I'm sorry, I won't trespass anymore, officer. No, it's like, hey, no, I'm here on a mission. If you had 10 minutes, I'll help you. Can I show you the message? There's a big difference. We're not apologizing for the work of God, but our desire is to see even our accusers saved. Even the king he stands before, he says, almost thou persuadest me to be a Christian. Verse 29, and Paul said, I would to God that not only thou, but also all that hear me this day. I wonder who was in that courtroom. None of his friends. All accusers. He says, all that hear me this day were both almost and altogether such as I am, except these bonds. He's like, man, I wish you were exactly like me. Well, except for these. Almost in a humor way, like, well, I wish you exactly what I had. Jesus in my heart. Well, just don't have the handcuffs. Other than that, I wish you would all have the same thing I have. I see a sincere... No wonder God used Paul in a mighty way. No wonder why many books in our New Testament are penned by a man who had boldness, but it was to see people saved. You know, let's have a boldness, but you know, nobody's going to talk to me like that. Hey, how about we have a tear in our eye and weep when they begin to say these things and say, Lord, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That's the boldness I see Jesus. That's the boldness I see in Peter. That's the boldness I see in Paul.